Hello everybody, Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. As you guys know, we've been covering the Blake Horstmann lawsuit very closely. He was sued by the production company that represents Bachelor, the franchise, and now we have the court documents which show why he breached his contract. And furthermore, I'm going to show you some of the things that he said and why that ended up with him having to pay $150,000 in damages plus $25,000 in arbitration costs for a total of $175,000. That's right. He was on Caitlin Bristow's podcast. That's right. He was on She's All Batch. That's right. He took an advertisement working for Bumble and a DJ event, and they got him for each one of these things. It sucks to be him. And I actually feel for him. I think this contract is so predatory, but he signed the contract. It's garbage. He also signed a contract in good faith that he wouldn't be mischaracterized in a way that would be hurtful to his mental health, to potential job opportunities, and all that. If someone were to fight these contracts, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, but if someone were to fight these contracts, I would think you could probably make the argument that you have to operate in good faith when signing the contract, knowing the show's there to make a TV show, but when they manipulate the edit in certain ways to make you look as if you've done something you haven't done, in the court of public opinion, you have to pay the price. Follow me on Patreon if you want behind-the-scenes bonus content, patreon.com/Dave Neal. I actually talk about some behind-the-scenes aspects of this suit. We've known about it on the Patreon for 3 or 4 months now, but now it's making some light, so we get into that, and I'll also have more content this afternoon on Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. So here it is. Here's the full court document. We have 19 pages here. I think it's way more than that in total. I'm going to share the pages that start off with the damages, but we have NZK Productions, and they are the petitioner versus Blake Horstmann, the respondent. And of course, they get into, all the details of, what they're going to, they refer to the show as the series, which means The Bachelorette and Bachelor in Paradise. And by the way, just so we remember, on The Bachelorette, he wasn't paid $1 to be on that show. He was just a quote-unquote contestant where the quote-unquote prize was, finding happiness. I don't know. What's the prize? Some Instagram followers? So anyway, I made the argument in my last video that I think even though he spoke up against the edit and got sued, that I think it was still worth the $175,000 because he's able to continue his career in a direction that he's got some, he's got purpose now. And he's been able to, now could he have shown, he could have released the text messages, the infamous text messages, and not talked about the edit. And people still would have believed him to an extent. But, he, by calling out the edit, he's not only doing what's right for him, he's helping out other people that are really the voiceless. You hate to say it, but they're the voiceless. They're afraid. They sign these contracts. They're afraid to get sued. This is the second time this has happened. And, of course, the show doesn't need the money. The show, if anything, what I would personally like is I would like there to be some sort of unionization of all of the contestants on the show. I'm in Screen Actors Guild. I've been in Screen Actors Guild for 15 years or going on that. And I get protected by a team of lawyers when I show up to a set that I'm going to be under good work conditions. I have to get paid. I have to get a break for lunch after 6 hours. If you don't break me for lunch, I get penalties every 15 minutes. You have to pay me extra if you're not going to feed me. You're going to pay me extra if I work past 8 p.m. You're going to pay me extra if I work over 10 hours and 12 hours and 16 hours. These things, these protections are there because talent was exploited in the past in non-union ways. So these non-union shows get away with it because the performers are playing themselves, so there is no protection from a union. So here's what we have here. The parties agreed that from in or about April 2019 through in or about March 2022, respondent Blake Horstmann engaged in the following activities which constitute a breach of the Bachelor Agreement and of the Paradise Agreement. So I'm going to share with you guys exactly what he's being sued for. In April 2019, he participated in an interview on the podcast Off the Vine without the prior authorization or approval of Bachelor producers, in violation of the exclusivity provisions of both the Bachelorette agreements and the Paradise agreement. So how it works is the contracts are generally 1 year, as far as I believe, from the airing of a show. So if he was on Bachelorette, he can only go on pre-approved podcasts for 1 year after. And of course, that means the podcast that he has to go on are the podcasts that the show approves. Like, a lot of the pre-approved podcasts are like Nick Viall's. And now, I guess what we're seeing now is Off the Vine is getting the approval. Caitlin Bristow's podcast is big enough now. It's getting the approval from the show. But back in 2019, Caitlin Bristow wasn't exactly on great terms with the show. This was before she kind of, built what we now know as the Caitlin Bristow empire. So that's one of the lawsuits. So whatever they're collecting per claim, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 in or about October 2019. Respondent Blake Horstmann entered into a paid social media partnership with the dating site Bumble without prior authorization or approval of claimant in violation of the exclusivity provision. So he took a sponsored job working for Bumble, and we have that article here from the Denver Post. Start swiping, ladies. Blake Horstmann is joining Denver's Bumble scene. So he had posted, and I don't think you had to disclose when there was a paid advertisement. So it wasn't even listed as a sponsor, but on his social media, he had posted that he was on Bumble. Of course, the show is extra cautious of other dating related apps because it's like, I don't know, not approved by them. Because what if, and again, so I'm, legally speaking, what if Tinder is the app that sponsors The Bachelor, and then all of a sudden he takes a deal with Bumble the day after he's on the season? So I do understand to an extent the buffer zone that exists about don't take paid opportunities with competitors. I do understand that. I think it's still a little ridiculous because the contestants aren't getting paid to be on the show. So they are getting paid by going on The Bachelor in one way or another by seeking out these other sponsorship opportunities, but the show will turn stuff down. You might have Taco Bell say, hey, Jill, we're going to pay you $50,000 to eat a gordita burrito and get diarrhea after or whatever. Maybe not the second part. Allegedly, it happens. And then the show will say, no, you can't do that. And it's like, you're taking away from my livelihood to an extent, right? So let's go to the next one, because here's where it gets interesting. In or about May 2020, Blake Horstmann made a social media post improperly disclosing behind-the-scenes info from Season 6 of Bachelor in Paradise in violation of the confidentiality provision of the Paradise Agreement. And as we know, what happened on Bachelor in Paradise is that Blake was edited to look as the aggressor in a situation that was very close to a DV situation, a violent situation. Not that he was close to being in one, but we had Kaylin, who had talked about her previous instances of being, in, and again, I'm choosing my words carefully here because these conversations get flagged, but Kaylin talked about a very difficult situation she was in. The show then edited Blake to look like this aggressor, like he manipulated her in certain ways to have sex with him and all these things that just categorically did not happen. So when he fights the edit, you have to remember, he's fighting for his life at this point. He's fighting for his character. He's fighting for what his family and friends think of him in future business opportunities. And when you Google his name, that's all he has. And the show lit that shit on fire. They lit that shit on fire and made it look a certain way and made it look as something it was not, which gets us to the next one. Actually, we'll go down to She's All Batch in a second, but in May 2020, he participated in an online event billed as Virtual Bachelor and Other Group Games on thebatch.com. The promotional materials for which improperly used the Rose insignia trademark and Blake's cast photo for the series. So this was a violation as well, and this is the app here, thebatch.com, your guide to batch virtual experiences. So he was paid to be a part of this, which in and of itself wouldn't be, I guess, wrong, but they use in the promotional material the Bachelor Rose and his cast photo. Of course, my belief being that he had nothing to do with that, but of course it's his name on it. So sued for that. Now, some of these are tick-tacky, but you have to understand that's the point. The point is they're getting him for where they can, and it's not all just like crazy things, but they're just tacking onto it. So then he was a guest DJ at Bourbon Street. So here he was a guest DJ who was also sued for this because I guess they used some more Bachelor insignia, Bachelor in Paradise logos. Again, my guess is he was not the one who did this. I guess it's on him to tell them to take that promotional material down. But either way, he's not fighting any of this. He went to arbitration and he's paying it up. He probably just wants it to move on. All right, in March of 2022, so this was just a year ago, Blake Horstmann responded in a tell-all interview on the podcast She's All Batch. Now, this is nice for the Bachelor recappers out there for one of our favorite shows, She's All Batch, the fact that they're able to get involved in this lawsuit. I'm sure, now, they did nothing wrong. When you're a podcaster like the fine ladies at She's All Batch, they're not under contract. Blake is. So they can ask him all the questions they want. People in the past have said, how come the show doesn't sue Reality Steve for leaking spoilers? Because he's allowed to. He didn't sign a contract. Now, when Reality Steve admitted to he did get sued by producers because he had offered some form of compensation for spoilers. You cannot pay, to have someone break their contract. So I couldn't be like, hey, Zach Shallcross, come on my channel. I know you're not allowed to, but I'll pay you 50 grand. I can't do that because that'll break his contract of exclusivity. So anyway, he said, they say he improperly disclosed behind-the-scenes series information in violation of the confidentiality provisions of both the Bachelorette agreement and the Paradise agreement. What did he say? I'm going to share it with you guys right now.
Bachelor.
They let us hang out de-mic'd in the ocean.
The show will turn on you.
They could literally get away with murder. You have to play their game. He literally was like, dude, you got to get Kaylin away from Cassie. Like, I was stripped down to my underwear, all laying outside on my deck, breathing into a paper bag. And she called me like hyperventilating. I remember they would bribe Becca to be good to spend extra time with me.
What happened in the ocean when you were holding each other unmiked?
Yeah. Mostly just making out, to be honest.
Mostly.
There was times in Paradise when they don't let you pee. I ran to the bathroom to pee and they filmed me and then they aired it, me running away from Kaylin when she came down the stairs.
Not allowed to pee. Not allowed to pee. So when they film him, guys, running, looking angry, he's running to the bathroom. That's all he's trying to do is go to the bathroom. His God-given right to go to the bathroom. In Screen Actors Guild, I'm allowed to go to the bathroom. And if they say no, the set gets shut down and I get paid. Okay? So he has no protection. He screams and he shares. This is what they're doing. They're getting away with murder. And in fact, they're lucky that they haven't had more self-harm done. Contestants losing their integrity and losing their self-worth because they're made to look a certain way on a show that they're not, and the audience not understanding that these edits are being done and being made. It's just a crime, folks. It's an absolute crime. So when Blake says you got to play by their game, they got the last laugh because he's playing by their game. He's paying the $175,000. And look, the show could have done it. The show could have said, look, you got paid. Let's assume he got paid 10 grand to do Bumble. All right, you got to pay that. Pay us the 10 grand you got to do Bumble plus the court fees and let's call it quits, right? But no, they twisted the knife. They're coming from for the jugular. And I'm telling you, they're flying real close to the sun right now. Real close. Congrats to Blake for taking the high road and continuing to do his own thing. It's a little messy, obviously, because they dropped this lawsuit on him the week that he announced his relationship with Giannina. They dropped this lawsuit on him the week he announced that he's on All-Star Shore. Like it's personal at this point, and we're gonna have to see how other alumni react to it. So far, everyone's got their lips sealed. You know why? Oh, because we don't want to anger the forces that be. We don't want to anger the producers. Fuck off. It's bullshit. I don't care if it stands up in the court of law. It's bullshit, and people need to talk about it more. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment.